Teac's back, baby. This is the Teac CT-M144. A TV from about 1992. Good old Teac, our favourite brand, not. Right now I've got a PAL Super Nintendo running in composite video. Let's take a quick look at the front of the set. There's the CT, the badging program. What's program? I don't do anything there right now. Auto memory, tuning, volume, channel up and down, remote sensor, power on and off. Speaking of remote, this is the matching remote, the Teac RC-490 remote control unit. Pretty basic with its buttons and commands that it will allow. Around the back, we take the battery cover off. There are two AAAs powering the remote. Up top, we've got a antenna holder. Moving down, we have the label, PAL BG. So it says PAL. That'll come back to haunt us, unfortunately. I shouldn't give it away, should I? Teac service phone numbers for many states of Australia. Then there's our SCART. So it's got SCART. Why else would I have had this television on if it didn't have SCART? So we'll see what that SCART's capable. And lastly, there's the RF inlet. So not much in the way of inputs, but the all-important SCART. So let's have a look on the inside. Teac's open and the tube is a Changhua made in Taiwan. It doesn't say A or M grade, it's a different coding system altogether. 37 seems to be the common theme in these El Cheapo tubes. I'm under the expectation that it's meant to be 34 centimeters, but I'm not sure what's going on there. I know the service manual states that on the board there's a way to adjust vertical size with one of the pots on the board. Might be a couple of others too that do other things. There's also a sub-bright somewhere, but pretty standard fare going on inside the Teac. At the start of the video, you saw the Super Nintendo hooked into the Teac, and that was via Composite. And the way I did that is with one of these SCART to RCA adapters. So obviously that end goes into the television. Then the Super NES AV cable goes into that. And it switched to input because the Super Nintendo signal's going into the TV, or we can go to output and probably get stereo out and things like that. But for our purposes, it's for input. Let's have a quick look at the menu system. The on-screen display, picture, that's it, picture select. So there's contrast, there's brightness, there's color, and sharpness can only be changed from soft to sharp. There's not an actual bar that moves up and down. If I have to go with one, I'll go with sharp. That's all there is to picture adjustment. Oh, that reminds me too. It's somewhat crucial to have a remote for this television and a lot of the old Teacs. So it's got 10 channels as you can see I'm flicking through. I can do that with the television. I can change channels, but to get to channel 0 AV, I can only do that with a remote. There's a button down here that's 0 AV and that'll switch over. Unless the SCART's got voltage switching to turn over to this when a device is turned on in the SCART socket, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're really going to need the remote to get to the AV channel. Let's put Bubsy back on. Again, Super Nintendo PAL in composite video. Get that display off. This Super Nintendo's got a switch on the back to enable a refresh rate up to 60 Hertz. It doesn't change the color encoding, it's still PAL. If I flick it, V-hold is rolling on the Teac. It cannot display 60 Hertz signal. We saw in the back it said PAL on the sticker, PAL BG I think, and it looks to be true. So as it is right now, we're stuck with PAL 50. We'll see if we can, well, there's not even much point putting on NTSC, but for the sake of trying, we'll try it. Sega Saturn's Turn NTSC in composite. Again, the V-hole problem, no 60 Hz display. Oh, the picture disappeared for a moment. And it's in black and white. The Teac cannot decode the NTSC colour signal. That's a fail. PAL Super Nintendo again with a PAL SCART cable directly into the SCART socket on the back. Power on. No response. Oh, we've got a little flutter. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, we've got, ugh. Oh, well, we're all over the place here. We could be still in a composite, who knows? Who knows what's going on? It's not right. Let's change SCART cables. So a different SCART cable in the Super Nintendo. Yeah, not real good. Are we going to get sound at all? Doesn't appear so. Oh yeah, there's the sound, and the picture isn't right. Last SCART cable in the Super Nintendo. I think this is an NTSC SCART cable. It's a cheap one off eBay. Now when I turn the console on, I do get a stable picture. However, I think it's actually arguably worse than what composite video was. I'm not convinced that it is in actual RGB, and if it is in RGB, it looks pretty damn ordinary, so I doubt that it is. These are all the consoles I've tried running SCART RGB on the Teac, and I've had no success with any of them, even with multiple different types of SCART cables on the Saturn, and I've never had a TV or monitor that didn't eventually work by some combination in front of us, despite having some dubious SCART cables in my collection. We need to look further into this RGB business on the Teac. This is the front cover of the service manual. One curiosity about jacks and terminals on the TV is that the AV jack is called a 21 pin jack. They're not stating it is a SCART socket. In fact, it's a 21 pin jack. A SCART socket by rights would normally carry RGB, so maybe this is a little way of working around that. I'm clutching at straws a little bit, but perhaps it's a telltale sign. Here's the schematic. If we zoom into the SCART socket, I've circled in red pins 7, 11 and 15. These three pins carry the red, green and blue. You can see in the diagram that 7, 11 and 15 go nowhere. There are no lines, no traces leading to anywhere, and that's a very bad sign, indicating that the set probably does not support RGB. The only real way we can find out is by examining the chassis itself for real. On the parts side of the PCB, in front of the SCART, there's not particularly much going on there. Looks like a Zener diode. That does not buzz out to red, green and blue. So on the top side, there doesn't seem to be any continuation of red, green and blue from the SCART socket. Let's have a look around on the bottom side. On the solder side of the PCB, pointing directly at the SCART socket, we can see that all the pins of the SCART socket, all 21 are soldered in. 7, 11 and 15 are the targets. So pin 7, if I want to buzz things out, I think it goes down to there. So it's got a little trace that goes down, but then it's a dead end from there. And I've tried the 3 pins, buzzing them out to wherever I can. There's no other connections in proximity to those pins, so they truly appear to be dead ends. And I think I can safely say that the TV as it is, in its factory configuration, does not support RGB. We've seen the consoles fail, we've seen service manual indicating that the pins don't go in here. Done physical test and it appears that the pins aren't connected to red, green and blue, so it does not appear that the Teac supports RGB. Lame. At the end of the day, the Teac CT-M144 is really a no-go. Without RGB, what's the point? Even if it could do RGB, would it be that good? With that said, don't stress hunting it down. If you see it on the side of the road, maybe you pick it up. Otherwise, give it a miss. Don't stress too much. When I think of Teac, or when I used to think of Teac, I would think of this level of quality, but don't let that dissuade you completely from the brand, as there are other Teacs out there that are quite decent. There are a lot of models with SCART, so don't completely give up on the brand. Pretty sure I've got a review or two of some other SCARTs that you can click on the link above right now to watch. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Stay tuned for more Teac. I will not give up on the brand.